Hello and welcome to You Talk Too Much, the podcast where I turn my incessant chatter into a platform for insightful conversation. Today I am joined by the wonderful Sophie Donald. Sophie is a personal trainer with a background in dance, bodybuilding and gymnastics. She's also been a ninja warrior, which we will get on to, and is now currently specialising in pre- and post-natal strength training. I'm delighted to welcome her on the show. Sophie, thank you for coming. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I feel like I was cringing into my chair listening to that, especially when you said bodybuilder.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, we're going to have to delve into all those things. Yeah, definitely.
How are you? Good?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm great. I've just finished a nice long shift of personal training. So,
good.
I'm tired, but I'm good.
Living, breathing,
breathing, strength training, and London life.
And rain. We've come in from the rain.
Oh, yeah, it's awful.
It is.
It's awful today.
I'm going to go right back to the start.
Yeah, I know. I'm quite nervous about it.
No,
because obviously we've known each other for, we go way back. You're right at the beginning of the fitness journey for me.
I was going to say, because I was thinking about this the other day, that I think we worked together in 2016.
Yeah. We did.
Which is nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah, that is wild. And when I think back to that, and I was wearing that tiny little cat suit.
Yeah. We should put context on that.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pantomime. Wasn't just wandering around.
I wasn't just wearing... Yeah, we do.
Hi, I'm
really.
Sophie. I'm playing the cat today.
Yeah, I was wearing it for a professional contract.
And I was a rat. So, called Stinky, for anyone that cares. That was a weird and wonderful time.
Yeah,
so let's go back. So where are you from and where did life start for Sophie?
Yeah, well, if you can't tell from my accent, I'm from Scotland. I'm from Inverness, up north, very small city. That's where I grew up, and I did dance and gymnastics, always been into that kind of active lifestyle. And then I went to dance college in Edinburgh, first of all. And then I went to another dance college in Cambridge. So I started my career in fitness, I guess, as a dancer / performer. And I guess I could talk about dance college for hours, but we'll maybe miss that part out. And then went into fitness from there. So I guess after dance college, most people experience some sort of body feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. Feelings about their body, but I felt it quite intensely. And that's when I started doing personal training and strength training. And that's when I then got into the kind of bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah.
Which is... I think I maybe started on that just after I met you. I was very into my fitness and my nutrition and the way my body looked for years after dance college, and I think that's where it kind of stemmed from. And then that's when I got into the kind of bodybuilding stuff and took it too far, as a lot of influencers did at the time. We a lot of fitness people.
Yeah, it's interesting when you go back to that time of fitness influencers and even personal trainers to a point, because that's obviously where you inspire from, is that there's a lot of things going on that were... I know that Alice Living has obviously changed her branding completely, and she also spoke about it recently.
I was just going to say that actually.
Yeah, she spoke about it recently, and I actually just listened to that, and it was really quite an interesting way to think that how that was just in the world. And at the time, coming from dance college, it's that thing you do. People are doing it. You want to look like that, or you want to be like that, or have a life like that. Then why wouldn't you go into that world?
It's so weird because I remember at dance college people being if you're hungry, just have a coffee. Or there was certain things that you would do that you were yep, that's fine. And you're right about the Alice Living thing, and a lot of other influencers have kind of apologized about all that now, because at the time, if I was an influencer, then I probably would have done the same thing, because I was posting stuff on Instagram that was definitely not healthy, but I was kind of this is cool.
Do you think... I'm going to word this because I haven't, but I'm just going to ask you, do you think it needs an apology?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very brave of Alice and other people to admit all that for sure. I don't know. Did it affect people's lives? I'm not really sure. Like, if someone came up to me and was like, you know what, something that you posted was like really triggering or something like that, then I'd be like, oh, I am so sorry about that.
It's hard for me because I think it's an education thing. At the time, that was the thing everyone did.
Yeah.
And like, if we went back, taking training and fitness out of it, if we went back even 20 years ago with what our parents did.
Yeah, it's so true.
They don't need to apologise for it. We've learned.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, as you say, it's very brave and very admirable that they feel the need to do that, and that's great. I think that it's more of a we've learned from that, and like, this is actually how nutrition works. This is how our bodies work. This is how much energy we need, and you shouldn't be restricting that in everyday life. Like, obviously there's certain things that people do need to restrict for whatever sport they're doing and all these things.
Yeah.
But I know, I listened to it and I felt really bad that she was apologising, actually. I was a bit like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. But I don't know if you need to apologise.
Yeah, it is a strange one. I think if you look at the positives from it, like, my positives would be that it actually definitely took me on this journey of like then going into strength training and then going into pre and postnatal training, because I really I then went like the opposite way almost, because I was like, oh, this is all just like a heap of rubbish.
Yeah.
So you do learn from the stuff that you do, and that's all you can really do is like, with, say, for example, the people who are personal trainers, like, you can just learn from your experiences and make sure that your clients have a really positive view of fitness.
Yeah.
And I always think about that now. I would never want anyone to be in that space where I was like completely obsessed with it, and it like really made me almost into like a selfish person as well, because I would be like, I can't go out for dinner with my boyfriend because I want to eat my own thing and stuff like that. So it's like, I just want to make it now positive for everyone else. So that's all you can really do, isn't it? Take the positive from it.
Do you think with that restriction, when people, so obviously there is a place for bodybuilding, people are wanting to do that, that is a sport in itself, and it's like anyone doing anything, there is a place for that. Do you think there is a middle ground of what you said, having the restrictions and not having, like, going out with boyfriends, girlfriends, partners when you're in prep for a competition or a show? Or do you think that's part and parcel of the sport?
I think it's probably part and parcel of it.
Yeah.
Like, I only did it for probably max a year. And I think, what I've seen, and obviously I'm not an expert on it now because I don't really like immerse myself in that world, but I think a lot of relationships that work are actually when they're both in it and doing it together, because it's the same with anything. If you don't align with your partner, then it's not gonna work. So like, on anything. So if you don't, like, if you were both very different, that would be really hard. So I don't know. I think if you're doing it as a sport, then you're all or nothing. But yeah, my kind of view on fitness now is having it as part of your life, but not like consuming your life.
Yeah, and I think that's, a lot of people are waking up to, me in particular, I'm waking up to like, actually, why would I go to the gym now? I mean, I definitely tried to be a bodybuilder one day, and I definitely tried to go to the gym, and I definitely did not succeed. Because that...
You went to the gym quite a lot when we did.
Yeah, I did, but I don't know if I actually was doing anything. Do you know what I mean? I think I was like there to be like, yeah, I'm going to build muscle, but then I would go and have like 6 pints, or like, it was like so counterproductive, and but that's fine. Like, that's who I am. And like... But I've now discovered, with like what I love from health and fitness in general, just health as in fitness, is that, for example, running's my thing. Like, I love it. I love going for runs. Love majority of stuff now, like class-based fitness stuff. Used to hate it. Now, going to the gym for me is more about, in 10, 20, 30 years time, what do I want to be able to do with my body? Do I want to be able to, like, let's say 30 years, God, I mean, like, maybe let's go 50 years, like, lift the groceries, do these things. If I'm looking to have children, be able to run around with them and be like active with them. Whereas back when I was 18, 19, 20, it was about an aesthetic, you know? Which I think, again, there's a place for all of that. But now I think a lot of people are waking up to, actually, I just want to be healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
And active. There's not necessarily a goal to have the 6-pack, or there is people that want that, and that's great, but not everyone has that. And I think it's more. I think it from an outside perspective, it's more respected now. Like people are more like, yeah, go to the gym and do what you got to do. Like no one really cares in a gym what you're doing as long as you don't disturb them. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
Yeah, I mean the gym that I work at, like our kind of, is it a motto? Like their tagline or whatever is training for life, and I do really believe in that, especially now when I think of like programming for clients. You're putting like lots of different elements within the program to make sure that you're covering them. Yeah, you're right, for 30 years or whatever, when you might, like, we do a lot of power work in our programs because we want our clients to be able to, in 30 years when they fall over, be able to actually get themselves back up again. And then that means that they're not then going to go into like a home, which is going to cost money and blah blah blah. Like it's you're I remember someone was saying it's like a pension. They call it like a health pension. Like the training you do today and tomorrow or whatever is like putting into your pension for when you're older. Good. I was like, that is really good. I need to steal that.
I've not thought that is 100%.
And then you're like, oh, actually, I think I could work out today. Like I feel like this is going to be really beneficial for me.
And I think I think a lot of our generation, it's just a little bit more education on health and fitness in the space.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like, this is how you're going to be ripped or anything. It's just like, well, if you do this, you'll be able to do that. Mm-hmm. It's quite a nice little healthy vibe, I think, with it now.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back into what you were saying about dance and gymnastics and stuff, so going back a bit more.
Yeah.
You've always been an active person and physical person. Did it kind of happen at the same time? Did you just do dance and gymnastics when you were younger, or was one first?
Yeah, they both happened. I did gymnastics first, and then dance kind of stemmed from that. But it's kind of weird. I don't really dance anymore, which is quite sad. But when your hobbies turn into your life, you'll know. And then you're like, I don't know, it kind of ruins it a little bit for you. So I still do gymnastics training, but dance not as much. It's like quite a, I don't know, like quite sensitive now. There's a lot of people that, you do something when you're younger, you go to like dance college or acting or singing or whatever, and it almost goes too far and the industry kind of ruins it for you and then you back off of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way, even people that are still doing it. As you say, you've kind of stopped. But like, do you think you say you go to gymnastics now and train? Would you ever go to a dance class now and or is that, one for a better word, a trigger point type thing?
I've been thinking about going. Like gymnastics is like my pure comfort zone. Like I feel really comfortable going into a session, but dance for me, I'm like, oh, I could leave feeling really bad about myself. Yeah. Do I want to do that? But on the other side, I could feel really great. I don't really know. It's a hard
one, isn't it? Because as you said, like it's there and it'll always be there. You can do it. Whether you then go and do something like you say, your gymnastics or your comfort, but maybe that's enough. Yeah. Because actually, if you were to go to a dance class, that's pushing out your comfort zone. And do you need that when you do that anyway? Do you know what I mean? And other things? And other areas of life?
Yeah. I feel like as a person, I always push my comfort zone. So maybe, I don't know, I definitely could try it. Like if I was talking to my clients, I'd be like, what could go wrong? Just do it. So I suppose I don't know, everyone's got their kind of like boundary that they would go to. I mean, I teach like bar classes, so I do get a kind of the enjoyment of being in front of a crowd moving in a sense, it's just not the same as like like performing. Yeah. But I think because I initially, so like obviously going back to where I was talking about my journey there, I grew up in Inverness, but then I moved to London, and the initial idea of me moving to London was to audition for dance jobs and to maybe get like a job on like a cruise or something like that.
So was that after you went to Edinburgh?
This was after Edinburgh, and then after I trained in Cambridge, and then I went back home to Inverness and did all the bodybuilding stuff. And then I think it was after a pantomime, actually. I was like, you know what? I want to really pursue this properly and like try and do more. Yeah. So then I was like, right, I'm going to move to London. It was after a breakup as well. So I was like, right, I need a change. Moved to London and was like, right, let's audition. Let's really go for it. And then the auditions just really took me like by surprise, not by surprise, but like they really just like drained me of every kind of love I had for performing. So it's just like, oh, I don't really want to stand in front of people after I've learned something for like 10 minutes and get told, yeah, that's fine, like, but we don't want you today, and that's a whole day wasted, and you go and sit and prep with your coffee like, God, what am I going to do today?
It's hard. And I think a lot of people who aren't involved in the industry, I think everyone understands the rejection, and everyone's heard the famous stories of Hollywood actors and A-list British actors who have got their big break at 50 or whatever, and I personally hate that term big break, because I'm like, I think that any career in any industry, you'll have a lot of mini breaks that raise you up. You don't get a big, I'm speaking out of turn here, I'm sure people do. I don't think you get one big break, is what I'm trying to say, in the sense that with that whole like folklore that everyone's like, oh, but such and such did that and then they won the Oscar when they were 90, and I'm like, yeah, but what didn't they have before that? What in life they have given up everything to get to that point, which is great, good for them, but people
it doesn't define you as a person. And that's definitely what I was thinking when I was auditioning. Like every fail that I had, I was like, no, I need to keep going, because like if I don't get a job, like I'm never gonna like prove myself. And then I was just like, I think it was probably during lockdown, I was like, why am I actually doing this? I don't even like going to these auditions. Like it doesn't make me feel good about myself. It's a waste of money. Like, and for some of the cruise auditions, I was like, if I got this, I actually wouldn't even want to go now. So I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. So there was a lot of like, I was like nervous to stop, because I was like, oh God, I'm actually realizing that I'm not going to be this person that I thought I was going to be. Yeah. Which was strange. But then as soon as I made that decision, like really good things happen for me. But everyone gets there in their own timing, don't they? Like I couldn't say to someone, oh my God, like stop doing what makes you unhappy, because when you're in it, you kind of think that's what makes you happy. And
this is why I wanted to kind of start this podcast, is that I think that from my personal circle of friends and like contacts, as it were, a lot of people think that it's a very much an industry standard thing of like, we're used to failure, we're used to knockbacks, which we are, like we get a lot more of it, but I actually don't know if we do get a lot more of it compared to, I don't know, a doctor, because I'm not a doctor. And like, I mean, so we speak very selfishly of, oh, it's so hard, you don't understand, but I wanted to start this because I want to understand other people's ups and downs. I think it's something we should celebrate. Like, why do we celebrate the highs and not the lows? Like, the lows make you get the highs type of thing. Yeah. And I think in the last few months, I've been going through a little bit of that and trying to find like my why. Why do I want to be doing this? What makes me keep coming back to it? And a lot has changed since we worked together nearly 10 years ago. So it's like, it's an interesting little journey that we all go on. And I think that's just really quite an interesting topic, that not many people talk about their failures a lot. Yeah. And even calling it a failure feels bad, because I don't think it is a failure. It's a discovery. It's you discovered during lockdown, why am I doing this? Why would I keep going into a room, learning something, and then being judged for it? And to me, that's the job as well. It's like, that's the auditioning part is the job. And then when you actually book a gig or whatever, you're like, this is the life, you know. This is like the easy part, although it's not easy. You still have to keep training and keep on top of things. But I think that's really cool that you discovered that in a time when we actually had time to sit down and go and like breathe. You were saying we're going auditions to and stuff. Yeah. When you had that moment to sit back and go, oh no, wait, actually, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I always think, looking back, it's actually the like failures that have like actually took me into the direction I'm in now, which is like so like cliche and cheesy, but I think probably if someone was to be like, what's your biggest fail in life, I would probably say like I failed as like a dancer. Like I never feel like I really reached my potential there, but when I talk about it now, I'm like, I don't even mind, because I'm now in a place where I'm really happy. But there was a point, like before I got my like latest job and before I was in the relationship I'm in, I was like, oh, I just feel like I really failed at that. Like I felt really bad. But I think when you then other aspects of your life become a bit more secure and happy, then you don't feel as bad about it. Yeah.
Things happen for a reason. Again, cliche.
Yeah.
And my mother always tells my gran, what's for you won't go by you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's 100% true. Again, cliche, cheesy, but things are the best if you keep those little mantras going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's so true.
So then, you were up in Scotland for lockdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why come back if the reason you were down here in the first place?
Yeah. Without sounding like really horrible, Inverness is just like not the place to be if you want to like expand and grow.
Okay, yeah.
And like I actually love the place so much, but if you like want to push your comfort zones or try something different, I feel it can be, and I'm sure other people feel this in like small towns they're from, it can be quite like judgmental. So, and like everyone kind of knows your business and stuff like that. So that was one element for me. I was like, right, I think I want to like try somewhere a bit bigger. I'm not going to be known. I can like try and get other opportunities, whether it's in like performing or fitness. Like London just seemed like the place to be. And I was also in a rental agreement, so it was
so
practically.
Yeah.
I had to go back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just spent so many years in Inverness feeling like I wasn't happy. It was so weird. Like I could just feel it in my gut. Even though all my friends were there, I was like, I just really don't feel like happy and excited by being here. And now I'm like, right, Inverness is my home. I travel back there. I absolutely love it. And I love my time there. But I love coming back to London and like having my kind of like professional life here. Because there is more opportunity in bigger cities. That's just kind of the way it is. Yeah. And maybe at some point I'll be like, right, I want to have like the slower life. But I just had a feeling in my gut. I was like, no, I need to like really keep going with this. And God, there was some years where I literally hated it so much. Like
what, London?
Yeah, London as well. Like I'm not saying that London's better than anywhere else. Like it was really hard. Like it's like a lonely place as well.
Yeah.
So there's obviously all this opportunity out there on your doorstep, but there's also like a lot of isolation. Like there would be so many weekends where I would just be like on my own, because you're like, oh, my friend is from London, but they might be, an hour and a half away. Yeah. So it doesn't actually work to go meet for a coffee or something like that. Yeah. So there was definitely points where like I thought to myself, I'll probably give myself another year and then I'll maybe move back to like Edinburgh or something like that. But then like it all kind of just started to get a bit more positive for me, so I'm really glad that I stuck through.
And persevered with it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's why I moved back.
Yeah. And do you think you'll be here for the foreseeable, as it were?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably it for me now. I mean, I might move maybe in the next kind of like 4 or 5 years, but I'm finally in a place where I feel like happy with where I'm at, like personally and professionally. And like the area I'm in and stuff. So yeah, hopefully.
It's a weird and wonderful city, London, I think. Like
I can like hate it and love it all in the same minute.
Yeah. That is like a great sentence to sum it up.
Yeah.
And like I think especially when you live here, if you visit London, it's like great, because you're there on a holiday, or you're there just down to see the sights or whatever. But I think when you live there, I mean there's to contrast that, I think when you live here, you don't actually appreciate the city sometimes.
I truly didn't realize how big it was here.
Oh my days.
Until I moved, I was like, wait a minute, it actually could take you like 2 hours to get somewhere.
Yeah, well, even here today, where we are, it's an hour outside Central, but actually it's not an hour. It's just the way the transport links work. Yeah. But it's still like really quite central London.
Yeah.
It's like weird.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
And you have to give an hour to get anywhere.
Yeah, but you also can get anywhere in an hour.
Yeah.
London. Yeah, it's mad. But then, so let's dive into women's strength training.
Yes,
And
that's your bag.
Yeah, here we go. So obviously you found training, you found being personal trainer, you found your own like journey through your training experiences. What made you then go, and this might be an obvious answer to a silly question, what made you go, I want to work within women's strength training, not just be any general old PT who I'll take clients on? Why specifically women's strength training?
Yeah, well, so then, God, I missed out so many bits of this journey. So in London after lockdown, I got a job as a PT and a fitness instructor in a women's only gym. So I started working there, and like I loved the vibe of it. I loved that women felt really safe, and it was like a community to come in, because obviously there's the aspect that women feel insecure about going to a gym that's mixed. So that's like one aspect of it, is like the confidence and the kind of like nervousness of it. But there's also the fact that women are really different to men, and men are really different to women. There's a lot of things that affect us that you maybe wouldn't want to speak to a man about. So I love the fact that like I could ask the class how we all are, and like one person's, on their period, one person's pregnant. Like there was all these different things that they were really open to talk about, which I hadn't really experienced before. So I just thought, you know what, this is like really a bit of me. Like this, I love just openly chatting to people and making people feel really welcome. So I think that's one thing I got from the kind of doing the bodybuilding and doing like all the fitness stuff before, is that I never felt like fully comfortable in it. So I always thought, you know what, I really want women to feel like really confident in this kind of fitness space. So that's where I kind of thought, you know what, this is great. And then obviously moved into pre and postnatal within that gym. So we started offering programs for menopause, programs for pre and postnatal clients, so you could actually exercise specific to the phase of life that you were in, because I think women's lives fluctuate more in terms of like the phase of life that you're in compared to men. So you need to kind of adapt your fitness and exercise routine to that. And I just thought like that's so simple but so needed, and like so what's the word, like underserved. Like women are really not well served within the fitness industry, and I think that really opened my eyes to it. So yeah, working at that gym was really inspirational. And then I started a podcast as well prior to that. That's
I was going to bring that up.
And that, speaking to like women from, oh my god, I had so many different guests, but that also opened my eyes to like all the different kind of areas of women's health and topics there as well. So it was just like a no-brainer for me. I just kind of slotted into it.
Something I found out last year that I couldn't believe, and maybe you can bust this myth, but I'm 99% sure it was true, because the guy that told me was a doctor.
And he probably knows more than me.
Well, he was actually he's studying it because he was mind blown that like if you Google, I've got X injury and how long should I rest it for, all injuries, and I think we're seeing it a lot within women's football at the moment, all injuries and stuff were all studied on men. So there is actually no data on how long a woman should be out for on an ACL injury, for example. There's not enough of it to actually go, you should be this, you should be that. And that started to open my mind up a lot to generally how different just bodies in general, but specifically men and women are when it comes to training.
100%.
Is that something that you've looked into as well, or is it?
There's so many things like I've read up on that, and I think one that just like sprung to mind there was it's to do with concussion, and how like there was this woman, this athlete, I can't remember her name now, but she I think she was a footballer, and she was like would head the ball or something, and for years she had this like extreme like headache and insomnia, and just like really ruined her life. And I think because they'd done all the studies on males on concussion, they couldn't like figure out what it was on her. But because women have like smaller necks and it's something to do with like our physiology, you can actually get a lot worse concussion from like heading the ball, etc. So she like really suffered because they hadn't studied on women, they'd only studied on men. So I'm sure that I didn't explain that super well, but I just remember reading it a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's really true that most of the studies have been done on men. And
that blew my mind. And I don't know why it blew my mind, because it was kind of, I mean,
oh yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is mind-blowing, but also, and it's mind-blowing because I never thought about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I never thought about it. I mean, I personally obviously have never had to think about it, but at the same time it's like, well, why is that a thing? We've got, especially with the rise in women's sport, especially with everything getting lifted, which is great, why is there now not in place these things? And again, I suppose it's probably because it's ran in the same way of my mind frame of, well, the studies are there, but they're actually not the right studies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the patriarchy.
Yeah.
There's another thing, like with sports bras, like I think they're quite a recent invention, and they were actually made out of 2 jock straps. Like originally, the first like prototype was
insane.
Yeah,
That's
and
insane.
I think it's like 2017 was like the first proper sports bra, and there was like there's so much to women's like biomechanics in terms of like having boobs, and like that's not actually like, that's quite new information that we like, that bras have actually been made to like actually fit our bodies, rather than just like, they call it shrink it and pink it. So like taking taking like a pair of leggings and just like shrinking it and putting a bit of like flower, like a bit of pink on it.
Mad.
That they haven't actually fit it to a woman's biomechanics and like a woman's physiology, which is it is really crazy. But I guess people just haven't really,
I mean, it's great that these people have then found that.
Yeah.
And there's all these brands now that are specifically made and researched, which is great. That blows my mind as well.
Yeah,
but
it's
again,
wild, isn't it?
Of course, it makes perfect sense to why that hasn't like been explored. Well, it doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean? It's like,
it's wild.
Going back into the all women's gym then, you said something about how people were more open, and that's great. And I suppose it means that if you're in like a class space with people who are like you, who are all going through the same thing as you, or maybe not at that point, or there's similar things that people have been through. When you started, were you then you're obviously able to relate to it, I suppose. So when things like, when you see the open conversations happen, are you able to, but did you notice people maybe going, oh, I've been through that, I can help you? Was it quite like a sisterhood almost type thing?
Yeah, it does become like that. And that was what it was amazing, was like the community that was being built. Because I know it can be quite hard for women to talk about these things, but also a lot of women don't even know to talk about these things. So like, for example, like menopause, or women who leak after giving birth, who like they don't even know to speak about these things, because it's just assumed that it's normal and you just have to put up with it. So when one person says, oh, I actually, like when I do a jump, I actually wee myself, and someone else is like, oh, so do I. And then when one of us instructors is like, by the way, you know, that's not normal, like this isn't something that you should have to put up with. And then it's like, oh, and then like it all starts to connect. So that's why I think these spaces are so important, because it is a bit of like bouncing off each other. And that's what I try to do with my clients, is like, you might not find out straight away what's happening with people, because they might not even know that it's not okay. It's
not even about a comfort thing then, it's, as you say, it's an education thing of...
I think so. It could be either, because like menopause in general is like it's obviously not a new thing, but it's since like the Davina McCall documentary that she did about it, a lot of women didn't even know that it's like important to strength train during this time, or that like these hormonal fluctuations might happen and you might experience really low mood. It's like they maybe didn't even know that was because of menopause, and things are only still coming out now. There's so much that I don't know, but I try and read up on it as much as I can. But yeah, sometimes you just wouldn't even be educated enough to know these things, which is no one's fault. It's just...
Yeah, it's making the spaces available to then learn from it.
Yeah.
And... which is what that was, that gym, the all-women's gym. And I guess that's still going. That is still a thing. You're just not there as much.
I'm not there anymore, no. Yeah, and that is, still going. So now I'm in a mixed gym. So my hope was kind of to go to the mixed gym and kind of be that person that could, bring that same vibe, but to a mixed gym as well. Because obviously we can all share the same spaces, but it'd be nice to have... like also someone that you can come and speak to that is totally. I'm actually going through this. So that's what I kind of try to be. And I'm like a really open person. Obviously I know that some people don't want to talk about this stuff, but I'm like, if you want to talk about it, I'm here for it.
So with the differences of pre and postnatal, talk to me about it. Obviously I'm assuming there are masses of differences between both, because obviously your body's been through a massive shift.
Yeah.
If you are, let's start with prenatal. Let's go that journey. So, is it a bad thing to start? Maybe like if you find out you're pregnant, to then just start working out. Should it be a thing that if you're working out before, or is it good to introduce what? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've got no idea.
Yeah. And I mean, why would you know about it? To be fair. So basically, the kind of so there's a charity called the Active Pregnancy Foundation, and they put out the kind of standardized guidelines. So their thing is basically if you're already active, keep going, and if you're not active, start gradually. So there will be a mix of clients that come to me. So I'll either get clients who want to start strength training because they are pregnant and they think, okay, this is going to be beneficial, but I want a trainer to help me. They don't just want to go into a class and just like go for it with no guidance.
Yeah.
But there'll also be people who have been very active and want to carry on, but they maybe want someone to tell them if anything needs modified or if anything needs changed. So exercise, whatever stage you're at, is going to be really beneficial. In particular, obviously I'm biased because like strength training is my thing. Like I think strength training is like just so beneficial during pregnancy and postnatal. But the likes of Pilates and yoga and running are still super beneficial as well. So everyone, if they can, should be exercising during pregnancy and postnatal. Obviously there's going to be some things where a doctor said you can't for whatever reason, and that's obviously you would not. But if you are having a kind of uncomplicated pregnancy, then I'm all for exercise.
I suppose every pregnancy is different as well, so you've got to take you've got to take all that into consideration as well. So there's like it's all so different. So when it comes to, let's go with people who are wanting to go gradually, how would you recommend they get into fitness? Would it be like a walk a day type thing, or
I think so. The recommendations are 150 minutes of exercise per week, and that's to include 2 muscle strengthening activities. So you could spread that out and do like 30 minutes of walking a day, maybe take a rest at the weekend or whatever. And then muscle strengthening could be a Pilates class. It could be lifting weights. So that's the kind of general guidelines with it. But there's a lot of classes now that are pregnancy safe. It's tricky because I would say like any class is probably going to be okay in like the first trimester, but and obviously I know that getting a personal trainer is such a like privilege, and it is a lot of money. So of course as a PT I'm going to say get a PT to check that everything you're doing is right, but there's also a lot of content out there because there's a lot of people like myself who really want to advocate for it. So there's definitely a lot of, even on the Active Pregnancy Foundation Instagram, they've got live. So it might be that you want to do like a 20-30 minute live class on
Yeah.
YouTube. So there's definitely ways of going about it that you don't actually have to spend money as well, because I know that's obviously some
Especially
of us
if you're
can.
growing a human and then you're thinking of that as well.
It's a
It's
lot.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I work in a gym, so I realize that like I'm super lucky as well. Like I literally work. I have everything at my disposal as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never want anyone to feel bad for not doing strength training as well. But there are definitely ways that you can do it.
Yeah. And there's, as you say, there's content online for almost everything nowadays.
Literally.
But maybe we'll talk about responsible sources that you recommend and stuff, and put some in the show notes and everything like that anyway. So then steering into during pregnancy, is it a very much should you be quite flatlined with your training, not necessarily trying to push strength, not necessarily trying to push whatever, or do you carry on relatively as normal? Again, probably
how
depends.
do I answer this in a nutshell? So basically, in the first trimester, nothing much will change unless you're feeling like nauseous and sick, in which case you might not actually want to exercise. You might just not feel good. A lot of my clients say that like over a day, like they'll just be like, oh, I feel so much better. So
wow.
So that happens for some people. And then you are basically managing expectations of how much you can lift. So you're not going to be lifting like PBs, and you're not going to be like gassing out in every session. What you're thinking about is keeping, if you know like gym talk, like keeping between kind of 8 to 12 reps and keeping it at a kind of like moderate exertion level where you're not feeling totally gassed out, but you're still feeling yourself, like feeling worked. And then it's adding in, it's so hard not to like go into like really detailed stuff, but like adding in like hip mobility and a little bit of conditioning at the end can be beneficial as well. So I'd say like in a nutshell, you're not going to be pushing yourself any heavier than you were before, but you can still lift heavy to the point where you're like, oh, okay, I maybe had like 2 reps in reserve there. Like I still like feel like I worked. Because I think one thing is like you're definitely not a fragile person when you're pregnant. Like you're literally growing a human. And a lot of the time, a lot of my clients say that they feel quite patronized when people are like, don't lift that, or this class, like do a bird dog. And it's like, but actually you're really bloody strong. So we should be like catering to that. And so many of my clients are different. Like some of them carry on, some of them are lifting like their 50 kg deadlifts and stuff like that. Some of them have just begun their journey and they're maybe kind of going a little bit lighter, but we're just experimenting. Like it's not one size fits all. So it's just kind of doing what feels best for your body. And obviously if anyone has questions, you can give me a DM. I'm happy to go into detail about it.
Yeah, of course. And then going into your final trimester post-natal, is there a specific time when you think someone should maybe stop training, or is that person dependent?
Yeah, person dependent. And genuinely no, like I had one client who was I think she was 37 weeks and she was like giving birth in the next 2 weeks. I was like, okay, well, do you want to stop there? She was like, no, I think I'll come next week. And I was like, okay, cool. Like we tailor to however they're feeling. And I was just like, this is so cool. She's just like in the weights room. There's just like men everywhere. And there she is, like big bump, just like lifting her weights. I was like, that's amazing. And then she messaged me and she was like, actually, I think I'm going to be giving birth like in a few days, so I'm not going to come. Probably I was like, fair enough. But there's loads of stuff you can do in terms of like preparing yourself for labor as well. So there's a lot of movements you can do that prepares your pelvis for labor. So if you're thinking like, oh, is there a time limit? In general, no, because there is exercises that are going to be really beneficial for you to help you give birth nearer the end. Also, as you said, it's person dependent. So you might be feeling just like, I want to nest and I want to look after myself. So it's like you can, but just if you want to.
And then post-natal, after you've welcomed a little one into the world.
You're doing really well, Euan. Like, I feel like you're...
I'm really
like,
trying. I'm really learning.
yeah.
If I'm going to watch this Bible, like just sitting there learning. Once you've brought the little person into the world, would you recommend taking a bit of time off? Or again, is that simply...
Yeah, I mean, gosh, everyone's so
You've been
different.
through a lot.
Yeah,
Like...
you've been through a lot. I would say in general, they do say you need to wait until your 6-week checkup before you start exercising again. But with that, what you want to avoid is not doing anything for 6 weeks and then getting this kind of tick off from a doctor who, and to be fair, like it's NHS, it's like they're short on time, but it's not a thorough assessment of, from what I've heard anyway, obviously I've not been through this myself, but what my clients have told me is that it's not a thorough assessment of like how ready you are to return to exercise. So it's, they say like wait until the 6-week checkup, but there is movements that you can do and kind of stretches you can do in that first 6 weeks that are actually going to be really beneficial to kind of build that foundation to you then returning from 6 weeks. Obviously, like some people at 6 weeks are like, absolutely not. I'm not coming back to exercise, or like structured exercise anyway, which I totally get. Yeah. So yeah, I would say you can actually, so you can start like pelvic floor exercises and you can start breath work straight away from day one. And then as long as there's no kind of like bleeding or anything like that, you can do like mobility and kind of stretch work from around the 4-week mark. I've got an ebook if you want to download it. It's got all the information in it there. Yeah. But yeah, so you can get your body kind of like mobilized, and you can go on like gentle walks and stuff. And then from 6 weeks, it's kind of, then starting to introduce that more structured exercise.
Build it back up again.
Yeah, because like in general, if you're a mum, you're going to be like bending down, picking things up.
Be mobile
like,
anyway.
You're going to be doing so much kind of strength work that you wouldn't class as strength work. But when you think about it, you probably are doing quite a lot. So you want to prepare yourself for that as well. Like you want to get your body ready.
It's that whole functional fitness thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I suppose, what I was trying to say earlier, is that a lot of people now are more aware of functional fitness, not necessarily doing it as in the gym or anything, but they're aware of, I want to be able to do this, so I have to do this.
Yeah, it's like, how can I like make my quality of life better?
Yeah.
I can do like exercises that mimic this, or exercises that I
saw a video about a person like lifting shopping bags.
Yes.
And then it was like a fast forward to when they were a pensioner, and I was like, I've never thought.
Yeah, those videos are cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I think in the mum space they do that as well a lot, where it'll be like, like doing a squat and then like picking up your baby, or like doing a lunge forward and picking it up, or like turning in the car, and it's like you need that rotation to be able to turn and stuff like that. So when you think about like that, you're like, oh my god, why was this not?
Why is that not in PE?
Like why was this not? Why were we not told this before? How did we not realize it?
But it is that thing of going that there's a lot. I think that, as we've said, a lot we know now that I think will change within education, will change within syllabuses, will change in ways that we teach our children things. And like
definitely.
That's my notebook just falling down, everyone. So this could go.
Oh no!
Way
oh my
off.
god! You're gonna have to improv.
Exactly. Well, no, we're actually. I've learned a lot from that. And I'm sure,
sorry, that was a lot of info.
But I loved it. And I knew this would happen to that, so I was happy about it. Because I was like, I can sit here and I knew that I could let you go, which is great. Because
I'm a chatty girl.
But also, I don't know about it, and I think it's important to talk about it. And I've been really trying to, like, within my life, talk about things and try and understand things more within a woman's body, because if I have kids, I want to be able to understand what's going on with them. Yeah,
it's so important that men know about it as well. Like there's a few male trainers in the fitness space that are like really passionate about it, and like I guess like why not? Because I mean, there's 50% males, 50% females. So
and you might as well. Yeah, it's I think that's something that I don't think we should shy away from it as men to learn about it. Of course, we don't need to go through it, but it's good to then have a knowledge.
100%, yeah,
and
definitely.
be able to maybe lend a helping hand if someone needs that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Oh no, glad I've taught you.
You've taught me everything. That's it. I'm an expert now. I'll be opening up my classes in pre and post-natal.
You're going to open the women's gym before me.
Yeah, that's it. I'm opening an all-women's gym. That's it. I like to kind of like finish off asking two questions.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay.
So one question, they're very similar. The first question is, and it's about going again back to maybe 10, 15 years. What would you like to tell Sophie of then? Now, so we've obviously spoken about that bodybuilding experience stuff. What would you want to whisper into Sophie's ear 10, 15 years ago?
Good question. I'd probably say just like chill, take the pressure off yourself. There's so much time ahead of you. Like, life is really short, but it's also really long as well. Like, you can have a completely different life in 5 years to where you were before. And I often think that, like, where I was doing that bodybuilding thing, if I could look at myself now, like where I live, who my partner is, what my job is, like, it's a completely different life to where I was there. So I always say this to people who are not that I'm old, but like to my younger clients who are like, oh, I'm going through this. I'm like, you know what? You could have a completely different life in 5 years. Yeah. So like, take the pressure off yourself whilst you're in this kind of like life stage.
Yeah. Enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah. Just enjoy it. I mean, easier said than done.
It is. Yeah. And I think hindsight's a wonderful thing as well.
Yeah.
So on that, I then spin the question around a little bit and go, if you could tell Sophie 10, 15 years in the future something, and that could be anything, what bit of advice would you want to give them?
I think probably I think just to have more confidence in myself and like what I'm doing, because I think it's like a common theme with women in particular is that we like always doubt ourselves and we always underplay, whereas like, I mean, this could be totally generalizing here, but like I feel like maybe white males kind of really overestimate themselves, and we need to be a bit more like that and be like, you know what, I've put the time in, I've put the effort in, I'm good enough for this. So I definitely feel like I'm getting a bit better at that, but I think like me in 10 years when I hopefully open my own gym, I need to like let go of the thought that I'm not good enough or ready for that, and just remember like how much hard work I've put in. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah. I think what you just said is, I think we all need to just learn a bit from each other.
Exactly.
As you say, I know it was a generalization to take that, but actually I think those people could learn a lot from taking a step back and just listening to someone.
Yeah,
and say,
yeah,
this is
definitely.
how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, not to bash anyone, but just from my
it's the way to word it though.
General experiences. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Honestly, thanks for having me. That was great. It feels like a nice bit of
little catch up. Where can the listeners and viewers? Wow,
they are watching.
Yeah, they are watching. Listeners and viewers, where can they find you and carry on the conversation?
Probably best place to find me is on Instagram. My name is Sophie Donald _PT. And I've got all my ebooks and links to things on there. So yeah, Instagram would be your best place. I'm very chatty, so feel free to come and speak.
We'll pop all that in the show notes. But Sophie, thank you very much for coming on.
It's been a
wonderful chat, very educational.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll do it again in the future.
Yeah, thanks.